Welcome back, Commander.
This is
Tri-House Tales.
Mysteries.
Fact, fantasy, and history have come together to tease the imagination.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to I believe it's the 6th installment of Tri-House Tales Mysteries of Histories. I am Matthew McKay.
I'm Kevin C. Frederick.
I'm Jeremy Griffith.
Yeah, he's Jeremy Griffith.
I was going to think of like a crazy name, but I was like, no, they need to know who I am.
Yeah, we don't have a guest star. And today we are talking about JFK, otherwise known as John F. Kennedy.
But more specifically, the assassination of him.
Wait, before you go into all this, I just right now remembered I have the same birthday as JFK.
Wait, how many? You always come out with these. Oh, my birthday was when this happened. I have a person who was born.
Jeremy, I don't even know when your fucking birthday is, dude.
I have a mat that is stained with JFK's jizz. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow, that's impressive. How did you get that?
That's a long time.
Expensive.
No, May 29th is when he was born, when I was born. So he was a Gemini. And his face was split in two. Ironic, anyway. Okay.
So, other than, what was the day that he was born? What was it?
May 29th.
So, John F. Kennedy was born on May 29th. The day he was killed was November 22nd, 1963, in Dealey Plaza in Dallas, Texas. This particular podcast is a special one to me because I am from Dallas and have seen the little X that's on the road where JFK was shot.
There's an X.
There's an X in the road. And then,
daunting. I would think buried treasure, but...
No, and you would think it's like
Marks the
roped
spot
off or something. That way, like people could take pictures with it. No, every tourist that wants to take a picture with this X has to run out in the middle of a street, take a picture, and get back before somebody starts honking at them.
Dangerous. Awesome.
I've been there. The street is not that busy.
No,
Well,
it's
at least
not
when I was
busy,
there.
but it's just like if you want to
It's a
get
dumb
like
idea.
you want to get your selfie game on. You don't have time for that. You have to.
You got to dodge some traffic.
Somebody has to take the picture for you. But yeah, so this podcast has a special place in my heart. Okay, so on November
Cowboys.
And I'm also Irish, so he's like Irish Catholic, so like
he's Irish
He's one of my
Catholic,
boys.
that's
I'm part Irish.
You are? Oh,
yeah,
okay, yeah, you are.
It's like way in there. You wouldn't recognize it to look at me.
Oh my God. So the reason that they were there is because it was re-election was coming up soon, and JFK knew that if he wanted to win and be re-elected, he had to win over Texas, which he wasn't doing currently. So the thing is, he purposely wanted Jackie Kennedy there because he knew that the businessmen in Dallas that hated him would absolutely love Jackie because she's gorgeous. She's a good homely woman. Everybody. So normally when the president travels, he's not in a open limousine like JFK was when he was doing this. And normally, if he is, there's Secret Service in the vehicle with him, protecting him. But JFK specifically requested that nobody be in the limousine with them. And so the nearest Secret Service agent was in the car behind them. And so leaving them extra exposed. But he had to because he wanted to be accessible to the people in Texas. And so
A little too accessible.
Yeah. So that's and when you watch the clip, I'm gonna butcher how to pronounce this, but the Zapruder film, which is like the best recording of the assassination, or the best recording that we know of the assassination.
What does that mean?
There are
recording?
there are pictures of people.
I don't think aliens had anything to do with this assassination.
All right, well,
There
let's
are-
see.
Fine.
Let's
There
get
are
there.
people that were closer to the assassination when it happened that, like, there's pictures of people in Dealey Plaza, and there's people in those pictures that have cameras filming it. We can't find that film anywhere.
Well, maybe they just took a photo. Maybe they were just taking photos.
Dude, that was quite a while ago.
Oh,
like
they
nobody
couldn't
had
find the
phones back
photos
then.
Those
either.
photos would have been important. Also, this was in 1963, so
Not everyone had access to a video camera.
not everybody, but
Like
there
the
was an-
iPhone was still a few years away.
Yeah, just you.
Gosh, damn it, Jeremy. So early morning, JFK, they land in Dallas. They were in Fort Worth. They took a flight on Air Force One, a whole 30 miles over to Dallas. Landed, were greeted very warmly. There was hundreds of thousands of people. There was people at the airport greeting them. They hadn't even been pre-screened or anything. It was just the people wanted to see JFK, and JFK was like, let's make it happen. Because he was like, we need to win the people over here. And so when he gets off Air Force One, the first thing he does is he goes right to the crowd of people, starts shaking hands. And I was watching this documentary with the Secret Service agent, Jackie Kennedy's personal bodyguard. And he was saying, and yeah, it's I'm as close to the president and the first lady as I can be. But every time he goes to shake their hands, I'm worried that they're going to die. Just because, you don't walk straight to the crowd if you're a president. And so they get in the motorcade and they're going. And the entire route is very well covered by people, by media, by everything. Oh, there is great media coverage of him landing in Dallas Love Field. Amazing coverage. The particular part that he's assassinated at is in Dealey Plaza, and they're only there to turn around to get back to the trade market where he's going to give a speech to a bunch of businessmen in Dallas. And it's the one part of this fucking, not parade, the motorcade travel that is not well covered. The best documented source we have of his assassination is an 8mm film taken by, I think this guy is I forget his first name, something Zapruder, and he's the one who takes this film, not some media person, not somebody with a camera. He's got this little home camera and he's taking a video. Best media coverage we have of the assassination.
Zapruder.
And if you haven't watched it already, I want to say, dear God, don't, but you need to see it. When I think of JFK being assassinated, I'm like, he was probably shot in the chest and died, a very noble death, and that is not what happened. When JFK was killed, it was he was shot through the throat.
He was? I thought it was his head. I thought his head just kind of.
He got shot twice.
Apart.
So, he got shot at least twice.
What does that mean?
We'll get into that.
Exactly, because the film is such low quality that you can't tell. The only way you can tell if he was shot is because he moves at impact. And so it's you don't know, when people are making being oh, this is official, this is what happened claims based off of this film, I'm you're out of your fucking mind. Nobody can tell. This piece of film has been so remastered and nobody can tell what the hell happens on it.
Well, but wasn't there an autopsy that could show how
Oh
many
my
times
God,
he was
don't
shot?
even get me started on the fucking autopsy.
Okay, wait. Before we get into it, let's go through the semantics of what happened at the event. Where was Lee Harvey Oswald located?
Yeah, all right.
And was it him who shot him?
All right. I mean,
loaded questions.
It's pretty unanimously agreed that at least Lee Harvey Oswald participated in the shooting of JFK. Most conspiracy theorists can at least agree on that he was a part of it and it wasn't just some bystander that was an scapegoat. Because also after the assassination, Lee Harvey Oswald did kill a Dallas police officer. And that's why he was actually arrested. And then they were like, oh, you also killed JFK. Okay.
Yeah, just as an afterthought. And is Lee Harvey Oswald really a model?
What?
Didn't nobody from Zoolander. Never mind. All right. Moving on. They make a really funny joke in it that all assassinations happen by models because they're easy to manipulate.
They just started playing "What Is Love" at the JFK parade. I've never heard this song before. Is it from the future? Lee Harvey just.
All right. Okay, so in the car with them, as they turn into Dealey Plaza, the entire travel, they're with them, but I'm just bringing this I'm painting the picture for you guys.
No, I like it. I'm imagining it.
JFK,
Stroke it, Kevin.
Jackie Kennedy,
Stroke that
the
canvas.
governor of Texas at the time, Connolly, I forget his first name, something Connolly, and then his wife,
Irish.
probably.
It is very Irish. Connolly?
Y'all-
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Definitely Irish.
Oh, yeah. They got the
They're in the car
liver
with
ones.
JFK, and the last thing that, because Lyndon Johnson, the vice president, is in the car behind them.
LBJ all the way.
LBJ, he's from Texas. Okay, so the last thing that was said to JFK before he was shot was from Nellie Connolly, the First Lady of Texas, turned around to President Kennedy because Jackie and JFK were sitting in the back seat, and the governor and his wife were sitting in the front seat, and then there was the driver in the first seat by himself, and all alone. And the last thing that was said to him was, "Mr. President, you can't say Dallas doesn't love you," which President Kennedy acknowledged by saying, "No, you certainly can't," because the people like poured in the streets to see this. It's not every day a president drives through, your city, and so everybody came out to see him.
Everybody. Do you have sources to back up that claim, Kevin?
Wikipedia, motherfucker.
It's a
but
lot
then-
of people.
Where are those facts, man? Now we're living in a post-fact world.
I think what he meant to say was a lot of people came out. All right, sorry, you can continue.
Okay, so the car pulls into Dealey Plaza, and then through like the cheering and everything, actually it's not that much cheering. There's like only a cup. There's
How
like
do you know?
Because there's video. I watched it. There's like
On 8mm.
There's like 100 some odd people in Dealey Plaza, which compared to the other video of the president going through the town is like nothing. Because you watch footage from that day, the entire place is filled. Dealey Plaza was just like a turnaround, and then it was getting back into the
throngs,
which where they needed to go.
Yeah.
They were like 5 minutes from their destination or something, and what happened were shots were fired at President Kennedy at his motorcade, continued down Elm Street. About 80% of the witnesses recalled hearing 3 shots. This is important because
Wow. Yeah.
3 shots happened in like, I forget what the time frame is. It's like 4.5 seconds or something.
Ooh, yeah.
From a bolt action rifle.
You can't get that many shots off in
that's
one
like-
gun.
Yeah, and there's been recreations of.
Wait, are we sure it was a bolt action? So maybe there were multiple shooters,
Well,
just in case one got
we're
compromised.
getting into that. What is told to us by the Warren Commission, which I will talk about here in a second, is that if we're going with what the government has told us has happened, is that Lee Harvey Oswald shot 3 times at the president's motorcade. The first bullet, they say, missed completely. Don't know where that's at. Second bullet, oh my God, what the Warren Commission tells us, is that it went through JFK's back, out his neck, hit his his bow tie, or no, his the knot on his tie, went so out of his neck, went into the back of the governor of Texas, went through his shoulder, hit his wrist, broke it, and went through and lodged into the governor's thigh.
Like the bullet was found in his thigh.
What type of bullet was this?
That's
This is like some like
this would be
hollow
referred to
point round
as
or something.
No, hollow point would have
Just
immediately busted
fragmented.
up. This was referred to as the magic bullet theory, which the fact that it's called the magic bullet theory and it's what the government tells us is like
That's
absurd.
what they say.
That's
They say, all right, this is the magic bullet theory.
This is how.
For some
Well,
facts.
there's
This is when JFK was really into juicing and he had a whole bunch of greens and kale.
No, but that is the official theory, is that that's what the second... Well, actually, in the Warren Commission, they don't specify if that was the... in which shot that was. They say the first bullet that hit the president was that one. And on the video, it looks like the president and the governor were hit at the same time, which supports that. But you guys should really watch it.
Matt has watched it.
No, I've seen it.
It's terrifying though. Like
I've read Stephen King's book.
and this is why it's terrifying, because after the bullet goes out of his throat, in the video you can see the president grasping at his throat, and it's confusing at first. Like, why is he doing that? And because when people said they heard the gunshots go off, they thought it was firecrackers or something. And then everybody said that, and one of the onlookers he said, I remember thinking, what idiot is throwing firecrackers when the president is driving by? And then saw the president grasping at his throat. And at first he thought he was like afraid and like ducking. And then he realized what happened. And then like...
Okay, I'm sorry. Could one possibility of the reason that we haven't found the first bullet is that everyone heard a bullet, but it was really just a ricochet of the sound of the bullet that seemed like it was twice?
It's impossible to tell through the recordings that we have. Most of the recordings we have are like police radios that were left on, and so the sound quality is terrible. Like I can't understand humans when they talk through those. There's 10-4 over. And so
all we have is flawed human memory.
And well, actually, well, yeah, and the Zapruder film, which is terrible quality. But then let's get back to what actually happened before we get into the conspiracies. Is first shot they say missed, second shot magic bullet, acrobat bullet, whatever you want to call it. Third bullet.
What?
Everybody agrees on what happened with the third bullet. The third bullet hit the president in the right side of his head and basically exploded it all over the presidential limousine. And
Jackie Kennedy.
And the Secret Service man. This Secret Service dude, Jackie Kennedy's personal guard, heard the first shot, was on the running board for the car behind them, heard the first shot, immediately took off, and was getting on the car by the time the last shot went off.
Wow.
This guy,
that is the saddest thing. It was his job to protect. Well, I mean, he succeeded in protecting her.
He's basically Bruce Willis, though. Like I feel like
I was thinking Jason Statham, but Bruce Willis is good too.
Yeah, but this guy, he was like,
I feel like Jason Statham's got more of that darkness and the edge. This guy is more like a Bruce Willis. Like
that's true. He's like
in Unbreakable.
He jumped on the back of the presidential and like yippee-ki-yay, like immediately, motherfucker.
Actually, in the documentary, he was like, the one I was watching, he was very like factual, like this is what happened. And he was very like, I can tell you're Secret Service, dude. You need to like loosen up. He was pretty.
He's probably crying on the inside.
He also witnessed the president's head just like. Oh, he talks about after the bullet went. Okay, so I'm going to describe what the Zapruder film looks like. You're looking at Jackie Kennedy's like looking around. Jackie looks completely confused, not knowing what's going on.
But she looks good. She's like still sexy.
Oh yeah,
she
she's like number one side bitch ever.
like JFK was right. Like
she's
the people of Texas loved her for a reason.
I'm sorry.
But no, she's looking confused, and she looks at the governor, and then she's looking at John, and then a third shot rings out, and his head splits open. Like his head splits open. He immediately falls over, and you can see the back like half cap of his skull hanging open, flapping. And Jackie immediately. This is so confusing to me. She immediately gets and like crawls onto the back of the car, and you're like, what is she doing? Like I would be terrified, but what everybody pretty much agrees she was doing is collecting bits of brain in his skull that are on the back of the car, because she's like they're his, and so when they flew, like her immediate impulse was to like gather up the remains of his brains.
Oh my god, dude, that is so freaking sad.
Yeah. And she has no memory of doing it.
Reacting like that. Like that's such a visceral like just try to hold it together somehow.
Let's Humpty Dumpty. Let's put them back together again.
She doesn't remember doing it. I wouldn't either if
No, okay, hold on. There's a lot of psychology about this idea that like, oh, the memory was so traumatizing that your brain blocks it out. But
Yeah,
science
for survival.
But science refutes that. They're saying what you remember most are the most emotional memories.
No, you might not remember them for everyday life, but they're hidden away and they do influence your actions.
I think that's wrong, but we can move on.
Anyway, no. But I think what
Agree
you're
to
talking about.
disagree.
I think what you're talking about, Jeremy, is something that's like when somebody is emotionally like there, like when you, like the things like we're, like all right. So after the motorcade is attacked, they take off to Parkland Hospital in Dallas, and apparently Jackie's just like holding like some of his brains in her hand, and she keeps talking. She keeps saying they killed him, and I have his brains in my hand, and she apparently repeated it like 20 times or something. And that Bruce Willis Secret Service agent is already like entering the car by the time Jackie's like picking up brains and stuff, and then he's yelling, "Get us to the hospital quick!" Like he's already on it. And the car is going like 80, and he's still like on the back of the car, like climbing in. And he said and there's a picture of him. He looks so badass. There's a picture of his sunglasses flying off because the wind picks up.
Live free or die hard.
Basically. Yes. Yeah. So a secret agent man was just. I mean, that poor guy. Like.
He's like, I live for this shit.
He was talking about whenever the car went through the heavy parts of downtown, the crowds were getting close on either side. And when they would do that, the driver would instinctively keep to the side that kept John furthest away from the crowd, but it would put Jackie closer to the crowd. And so he would come off of the car behind them and be on the back end of their car. And then John would look back because, he said to not have Secret Service or anyone to be accessible. And so he would look at John, and then he would go back to waving because the Secret Service agent was like, "I've got to be by her. Like, there's, hundreds of, we know what the gun laws are like in Texas." And yeah. So and then they take off to Parkland Hospital where.
It's just like I know that's like silly. It's
He's
like his
clearly
brains are
dead.
everywhere.
Yeah, there was without a shadow of a doubt that he was dead as soon as that bullet hit
Is there like a DBA, like dead before arrival?
I mean,
It's not dead upon arrival.
Oh, is it? Dwa. JFK Dwa.
well, the reason they went to the hospital was also because of the governor of Texas. He was shot.
Oh.
So they rushed to Parkland Hospital, and they're not ready for the president. Like, they get there and they're expecting gurneys to already be out and stuff, but this car hauled ass so quickly that they got there, they weren't ready, so they get gurneys out to him, and then they rush him in, and then the surgeons are all there, and they look at him, and they're like, there's surgeons that talk about walking in, and it just being like a haunting image of just there's no glory to the president in this moment. His skull is like split open and like dead already, and there's nothing they can do. But mostly it just, the documentary I watched talked about how still Jackie was and just like repeating those words, holding like she's got blood all over her. It's
No, you're
really,
making this really visceral, Kevin.
Yeah.
Thank you.
it's
He killed him
terrifying.
and
And
here are
she's
his
so
brains.
gorgeous. I felt, oh man, poor Jackie.
If she was ugly, like I could have gotten over the fact. What a dick.
All right, so timeline. So while they're at the hospital, Lee Harvey Oswald, this actually happened, but I'll give you the timeline as if we're believing the Warren
Around
Commission.
Texas.
Yeah, and I said he was driving. He's not driving. The police officer is driving. Sees Lee Harvey Oswald, doesn't recognize it's him, but is talking to him about what's going on. He asks. There's a brief exchange, according to eyewitnesses. The police officer gets out, and Lee Harvey Oswald shoots him like 4 times, and then takes off. Don't know how he's not arrested right there, but he takes off. And then a store owner calls in a suspicious character because he's like waiting in the front area of his, like the, what's it called? The perch of his shop. and he's
I've
looking.
literally never heard that word before.
I was sitting on my shop perch.
You know, like the perch, the thing that goes over the top. That's not what it's called.
What? He was on that?
Just for
No,
the sake
just-
of argument, yeah.
Damn, bro, that's a ghetto.
Is that like the awning? The thing
Awning.
that comes
I will
out?
call it that. It's like a little inlet area. You know how like the storefront is like sunk in, the door is like sunk in. It's like the little thing. Anyway,
We don't own stores, Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin.
Okay, sure. Okay,
That's
fine.
where he is. He's looking suspicious as police officers are going by, and then they call him in, and then after the police officers pass, he slinks into the Texas Theater, and then the police officers surround him, and this is why they're at Parkland Hospital. They're finding him, and what happens is the police officers swarm him. Lee Harvey Oswald is acting like nothing's going wrong. And then as soon as the police officers start like berating him, he punches one of the police officers in the face, knocks him down, and as he's pulling up a gun, the police officer like ninjas back up and then knocks the gun out of his hand, and the police officers proceed to beat the shit out of him. Because
Right. So,
if you
fuck.
see pictures of him, Lee Harvey Oswald, his face is fucked up when they. It's not too bad. It's not like, whoa, that's police brutality, but it's like he received a firm ass
I
whooping.
mean, that guy killed the president of the United
Well,
States.
at this time they just think that
and tried to shoot a couple police officers.
yeah, I think he's beaten a fair amount for shooting a police officer who's beaten a fair amount. And they bring him in.
They knew he killed the police officer when they apprehended him?
You mean the president?
No.
Oh,
They knew he
'cause
killed
killed
the
the-
police officer.
Oh, they didn't know the president yet, though.
Yes.
Okay. Allegedly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the people that bring him in are talking. They're first interrogating him about the police officer. I'm amazed at the timeline in which all this shit happens. JFK, he's at Parkland Hospital in like no time flat. He's pronounced dead by the time Lee Harvey Oswald is arrested. That's like 70 minutes, and then
How did they do that? Oh, yes. Well, he seems pretty dead.
he has half of a skull. He's not coming back from that one.
Let's see if he can function on this half of the brain. Nope.
I imagine, like, what is it, the game Operation? Oh, touched a bit of brain.
They're like, Jackie, here, give us the pieces back. We'll see what we can do.
I feel a little bit bad about that joke, Jeremy.
That was bad.
That was dark. We went to a dark place just now. Yeah, so he's pronounced dead, and then I'm trying to think of the next logical point because like there's so many timelines that are happening. But so while they're in the hospital and they're talking, they're waiting for the priest to show up and give him his last rites. He does so.
Irish Catholic, I forgot.
Yeah, and
Hell yeah. Dude, they've got like statues of him in Ireland.
really?
I
like
didn't see any of
crazy.
them. I
No.
should have.
They have like paintings of him in like important places. Like he is.
loved JFK.
Yeah, and the Irish loved him so much.
Well, yeah, because when he was campaigning, he had to overcome like anti-Irish sentiment.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
like, cause they were still so like prejudiced against at that time. So it's like an amazing accomplishment,
Yeah.
like almost as big as Bono.
Wow. So yeah, while the last rites are going on, LBJ and Lady Bird, his wife, good old.
Wait,
Texas.
his LBJ's wife was nicknamed Ladybird,
Yeah,
or was that her birth name? Like, just her. Okay, anyway.
I actually could be for all I know, but I choose called Lady Bird. And they went back to Air Force One. So one of the facts that I find quite interesting is the Secret Service, obviously during this catastrophe, was like all around the body the entire time of the shooting. And at the hospital, when they were trying to leave with JFK's body in a casket with Jackie Kennedy back to Air Force One, they were stopped by the local hospital staff in Dallas because, according to them, Texas law stated that they should be the ones to do the autopsy because that's where it happened and everything. Like, the autopsy should happen there. And apparently a Secret Service member lifted up the doctor who stood in their way as if he was a child and moved him to the side and continued out of the hospital with the
Now
president.
that is Jason Statham.
That's badass.
That's The Rock, dude.
Yeah, no, probably the right.
He's like, I don't like bullies.
There was on the documentary I watched, it was a statement from somebody who like witnessed it, and he was like, and he lifted up the doctor as if he was a child. The doctor should have done an autopsy according to Texas law, which I think, maybe I'm biased because I'm from Texas, but I think that would have been the more credible source of an autopsy, is to have it done right there after the shooting. You could have gotten all the facts straightened out right there.
I agree, but that it is the President of the United States, which probably calls for measures that you wouldn't think would be normal.
Well, exactly. But the problem is that after he's assassinated, they drive him to Air Force One. He's loaded into the back of Air Force One, during which Jackie Kennedy goes and sits with him on the back of the Air Force One, is like obviously like distraught as shit. This is like 2 hours after he's shot. They're in the motorcade. She's like, oh, my husband's alive. Dead. 2 hours later, she's on the back of Air Force One. Okay, so this brings me to the point. So, all right, so the Secret Service is carrying JFK's casket onto Air Force One. And as they bring it onto Air Force One, the rails that you use to carry the casket are too wide, so they can't fit it through the door. And, you know, they don't want to carry the casket diagonally so they can fit it through or anything. So they break off the rails right there, carry it on Air Force One, put it in the back, and then the picture that LBJ takes and everything. And then they go off to the Bethesda Naval Hospital.
Bethesda.
What?
Bethesda.
Well, that sounds way better. You put that in when I say it, and it'll just be your voice. When
They went to the Bethesda station.
They put it in the Bethesda in Maryland. They go to Maryland, and and that was at the request of Mrs. Kennedy that he get his autopsy done in Maryland, because it was JFK had been a naval officer, and that was a naval like base, and
Yeah, so it's kind of like going to his roots, going to his
it was a naval
He was a
hospital.
service
She
member,
wanted to
so-
be there, or the government told her that's where it should be, and
CIA.
FBI.
I mean, the thing is, like, why is it all so sketchy if the government wasn't involved? Go on.
And the problem with this is that local Dallas hospital workers who like showed up on the scene the minute of and couldn't be anticipated based upon like the time, like they just showed up and could have given an accurate autopsy because they were in the moment. No way they could have been like subterfuge or anything. And then there's an entire flight back to Maryland where the autopsy is actually done
Yeah.
by somebody that could have been pre-arranged. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, like in Stranger Things. Okay, no spoilers for the people who haven't seen it. I apologize.
When does that happen in Stranger Things?
The stuffing Will Byers, the fake dummy.
no, there is several conspiracy theories that think that the autopsy of JFK was faked.
And dude, okay, if the government wasn't somehow involved in like in fucking over like Dallas officials and just people, how did the Packers destroy the Cowboys in the playoffs this year?
The Lord Jesus Christ was against them. That's how. I don't want to talk about it. I hate you, Jeremy. I forgot to tell you that Jackie Kennedy refused to let JFK leave the limousine to go into the hospital because people were going to see what he looked like. And she didn't want the American people to see what he looked like in that moment. So the Secret Service agent, the Bruce Willis, took off his coat, covered JFK's upper torso and head with his coat, and brought him into the hospital. That way nobody could see him that weak and that vulnerable with the...
That week.
I mean, he was dead, but you
He's,
could
like,
see
torn
inside of his
apart.
brain cavity. Like, nobody wants to see the leader of the free world look like that.
Yeah, it's pretty.
I love that term, leader of the free world.
Leader of the free world.
It gets me hard too. But the point is, as like,
No, but like, I mean, I feel like
I did have a half joke going.
leader of the free world. I feel like I'm like numb, like I'm used to it. Like, yeah, JFK was assassinated. That's like a thing, you know. But if like I try to imagine it
you could
happening
see his
to either,
brains, dude.
I mean, if Obama,
yeah, either Obama or Trump, like imagine that. Like that's fucking nuts.
because
Like
that means
monkey-
like something else is going around in the peripherals that you never even or maybe that you hoped you'd never confront.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
okay, you know Indiana Jones where he has to eat monkey brains and the brain like
I hate that part.
you
of
about to
that
say
movie.
love.
No, I
Where the
love the
monkey brains
movies.
peel open.
Dude, I haven't seen any of the Indiana Jones movies.
Jesus
monkey
fucking
brains. It's like the head of the monkey is on the plate, and it's just like the top cut off, and you can see the whole brain.
and the skin peels off and there's brain. Imagine half of that's JFK, but the brain's not there because a bullet knocked it loose.
Wow, what a great analogy.
Kevin is a poet, and he doesn't even know it.
There's been recreations of the shot in several committees that have been formed to also before we wrap we should talk about the Warren Commission and what they were supposed to do.
What is this commission? What?
The Warren Commission is a commission made by LBJ after JFK was killed. And its entire function was to investigate the assassination of John F. Kennedy. But it was created based off of a couple recommendations by political authorities to reassure the people that a conspiracy was not responsible for his death. So basically, the Warren Commission was created so that the people wouldn't freak out.
Which means that they're going to reject certain truths in order to pursue their own truth.
Likely.
Exactly. Or that they were created as like a front for truth. And while they were investigating, they destroyed truth.
Yeah. Well, dude, if their concern was truly to make sure people didn't freak out, they would have had the autopsy right there in Dallas.
I personally don't think they should be faulted for the decision that was made at hand because it came down to local Dallas authorities and doctors on whether they should do the autopsy or people in DC. And granted that the local Dallas authorities just let the president get shot. On a normal like presidential motorcade, a Secret Service member would have been blocking the view to John F. Kennedy. When you Google John F. Kennedy's assassination, you find that the chief authority on the investigation of his assassination was the Warren Commission. And it was, they're the ones who had the first access to everything. They're the ones, local Dallas authorities grabbed whatever film they could find from the instance of the assassination. Any local things that happened during, they found. And the Warren Commission is the one who gathered that, studied it. Life magazine actually had the Zapruder film first and had frames of it, not published to the public, but just had it for the government to view.
Okay, I have a question. Was this, and I'm not sure if you know this, but is this when the Cold War,
Use your words.
yeah, no,
The North Face jacket.
exactly, fuck, hashtag fleece pants. Yep. Is this when the Cold War really started to escalate between America and Russia?
This was during the Cold War.
This was during the height, though?
This is why I think a conspiracy actually happened, was because
Well, what conspiracy? Like the U.S. government conspiracy or the Russian
I think it was
conspiracy?
both. A day and a half afterwards, like John F. Kennedy is still being presented in front of the Capitol building, for his final ceremonies. So Lee Harvey Oswald has been questioned for 12 hours straight by the Dallas Police Department, and they're getting nothing out of him. And he's going to go to trial. And then as he's walking out of the Dallas Police headquarters to go to trial, Jack Ruby stands out from the crowd of all the reporters and shoots Lee Harvey Oswald dead right there, like a day and a half after the assassination of John F. Kennedy, thereby covering up any confessions, any trace of why he killed him.
What was his name? Rose? Rose?
No, this
Jack
is
Ruby.
Jack Ruby.
I saw his hat in the museum.
A Russian sympathizer?
No. Jack Ruby was a Dallas nightclub owner, not anything related to Russians, but Dallas nightclub owner. If I'm not wrong, sounds mafia connected. What I'm getting at is there's a lot of evidence that doesn't add up in the JFK assassination, and it doesn't make sense. And there is people who have dedicated their entire lives to figuring out what actually happened to JFK, because there's just so many people that blundered the fucking investigation. And then the Warren Commission is supposed to come in and be the voice of reason of what actually happened. But in reality, they were created to smooth over the assassination to the public. And it had the exact opposite effect. Because when the government's like, oh, we need somebody to tell us what just happened and it needs to be public, it was like, we know what you're fucking doing, assholes. Like, you're making us, you're treating us like we're stupid.
Yeah, and the public is not stupid. Because there are always people who are vigilant and are waiting for the government to fuck up.
Yeah, if I've learned anything from YouTube, it's like people know when the government fucks up.
Oh, yeah.
Or memes. Memes know when the government fucks up.
It's almost like the memes know before the creator of the memes.
Yeah.
You know? Like, it's like hidden memes.
It's like they create themselves.
Yeah, it's like Michelangelo, where he was like, I just, like, the statues in the block of stone. All I do is make sure that, I just chip it away until it...
Why'd you turn into Matthew McConaughey all of a sudden?
I did not. hey. That's not
Right,
Matthew
so,
McConaughey.
I don't know where we're supposed to close on this episode because, I mean, there's so much more we could get into. But,
Okay, why don't we just say what's next?
No, I'm gonna go with
are we gonna do
based
that?
off the current information.
Okay.
I'm gonna go. I mean, I've done a lot of research, but I'm gonna go off of what I believe is what happened to John F. Kennedy, and then we can go around based off the current information. We can talk about it. So, what I believe happened to JFK was that he was killed by multiple shooters from Russian intelligence in order to weaken the United States of America. And it was covered up by the United States and pawned off on Lee Harvey Oswald in order to prevent another Cold War. Or in order for the Cold War to escalate into an actual war. I believe it was covered up to prevent World War III.
I actually really dig that theory. I dig that theory because that doesn't pit the U.S. as the bad guys. It pits it as a necessary evil to lie to the public to prevent a horrible catastrophe, which I respect.
I mean, World War III would have been a nuclear war. There would be there wouldn't be United States. It would be like West Coast, some East Coast. Like, everybody would be dead. And
Yeah.
And so what I think happened is several Russian sympathizers killed John F. Kennedy, and in order to keep the public from demanding war, like it did with, the bombing at Pearl Harbor. Because that's what happened. Pearl Harbor happened, and the American people demanded there was retaliation. And if that had happened for World War III, it would have been the end of life as we know it, I think.
Yeah.
And so they covered it up.
Okay, my theory, and this is kind of like, you think I usually have crazy theories, and this one is probably pretty logical, I think. So I think it's kind of out of turn for me.
Aliens fucked John F. Kennedy and his head exploded.
But why'd you ruin it? Why'd you ruin my punchline? Oh, man. Let's say there was an anal probe inserted into JFK.
His skull.
And then the aliens were like, now, do it now during the thing. And it just shot up through his skull and went, whoosh, and went back to fucking Milo Xyloto.
And that's what Jackie Kennedy was trying to, not his brains, but she was trying to get the probe.
Yeah.
Yes.
She was like, "Where'd it go?" And then she looked up. It's an excerpt from the video. They removed it. She looks up like, and went back to Milo's at Loto. No, I'm actually gonna hold off because I want to research more why people here in America, like the reasons that Americans would have for wanting to kill John F. Kennedy. Like we kind of discussed the CIA thing. And I don't know, maybe it's like some
I haven't
Bay
even
of Pigs
talked about the
things.
mafia yet, dude. The mafia?
Oh yeah, the deep connections with the Kennedys. Yeah, spider webs.
Yeah. So I'm gonna hold off on a theory
dude. Make up.
because I don't have one.
Just make up something.
No, come on.
Just
All
make
well,
up
I
one.
mean, yeah.
All right, here's my theory.
Other than aliens probing John F. Kennedy's asshole, please.
John F. Kennedy was making too many waves in his policies, and he was on his way to either revealing or undermining the shadow government, and they were not for it, so they orchestrated an assassination and pinned it on Lee Harvey Oswald. No, hold on. They got Lee Harvey Oswald to cooperate by saying that they would take care of his family and Russia for the rest of his life.
Okay, my theory about JFK goes back to the roots of America with the occultism. And I believe that the shadow government has been not a thing that's, I mean, kind of going off with Jeremy, I agree. I don't think it's something that just happened during the last century or so. I think the shadow government is part of the occult, which, I mean, Benjamin Franklin, he was an occultist and he helped create our government. I believe that there is an underground shadow government that pretty much chooses the true direction that our government goes. And I think that JFK was trying to out them. I think the CIA at that point in time was part of this shadow government. Kevin's looking at me very funny.
I'm very skeptical.
Okay, well, you can be, but, you know, these are facts. So. No, but I believe that
These aren't even the alternative ones. These are just the facts.
I mean, if you listen to a lot of JFK's speeches, they are talking about secret societies. And I think that he was trying to out them, and they got very scared, very nervous that the public would learn about them and realize their nefarious purposes. So, the New World Order killed him, as to preserve the status quo.
We're gonna figure it out.
The threads go deep.
The Warren Commission will rise from the dead and talk to us.
I know. I'm
about
like kind of.
conspiracy theories.
I have like a subtle fear inside of me right now. Like even talking about this, that we're gonna be like targeted.
We're not. They don't care about us.
It's the biggest conspiracy of our time.
And that about wraps it up for JFK Part 1. This is Tryhouse Tells Mysteries of Histories. Please join us on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. We have some more shorts up there and more coming this month and the next. And join us next week for JFK Part 2, where we kind of get into more of the conspiracies.